Good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to welcome you to the final part of the Beyond the EU series, looking at new markets around the world which UK exporters can consider selling into following Brexit. Today we are looking at North America. My name is William Barnes-Graham and I am the Digital Content Manager at Open to Export. We are a government-supported online community helping small UK businesses get ready to sell overseas through our step-by-step articles and guides, regular webinars, Ask the Experts forum, and our Export Action Plan tool. You can find all of these on our website at www.opentoexport.com. We will be running a live Q&A at the end of the session, and you can ask questions at any point during this webinar using the question box on the control panel to the right-hand side of your screen. We will also be reposting questions onto our forum afterwards, so hopefully in one way or another you'll get useful answers to them. We don't typically share slides, but we will be recording the webinar and uploading it to our YouTube channel, as well as linking to it on our webinars page, where you can also find about more of our upcoming webinars and listen to previous sessions. We have some great speakers today from Altios International, so I'm now going to hand over to Pierre to introduce Altios and the free market experts who will be covering Canada, Mexico and the USA. Pierre.
Hi, thanks Will for the introduction. Hi everyone, and thanks for attending this presentation. We are pleased today to speak about the opportunities for UK businesses to get into the North American markets. To start with a brief overview of our company, Will, if you can just go to the next slides. Thank you. So we've been established in Australia in 1991 by a French businessman, and today, even if we are a very international company, we are a French company, hence this funny accent. As of today, we have 22 offices in 17 countries, presenting a bit more than 160 staff, all market experts located in our different offices. Since our creation, we've supported over 3,500 companies in the international expansion, conducting an average of 500 missions per year. So we, as you can figure out, we do lead several missions for each of our clients, either in the same markets or in several foreign markets. We do generate every year a turnover of around 25 million US dollars, and we help our client generate a total turnover of around 500 million, which means more is done for any dollar invested in our services. We help generate $20. On top of this, as we want to be the partners of your international expansion, we can give access to over 80 markets through our long-term partners. Will, next slides. Thank you. And as your partner, we do offer an all-inclusive operational and ongoing support through a wide range of services, going from the global advisory for you to select the right markets to get into, and then we help you get into the market, understanding the potential, and basically to understand what to sell to who, how, when, why. And then we help you incubate the business for you to generate as much turnover as possible while limiting the risks due to an international expansion. And when it is the right time, we help you set up a local presence, and we help you as well invest locally to accelerate your local presence, and we help you through all the steps of an external growth. Next slide, please. And for today, the people who took part and who will take part in this presentation are Elise from Altios Mexico. She will speak about the opportunities in the Mexican market. Mary will speak about the Canadian market, and Dalton, who's a project manager at Altios US, will speak about the opportunities in the US market. And myself, I'm Pierre Bessinger, and I am in charge of supporting the British businesses in their international global expansion. Next slide, please. To start with a brief overview of the North American continent. Next slide, please. And to compare it with the European continent, basically there are much less countries in North America, 23 against 44 in Europe. But on top of this, as we're going to see just after, out of these 23 countries, 3 countries, and the 3 countries we're speaking about today represent around 98%, 97% of the global wealth generated. In terms of land area, it's bigger than Europe, but you have much less population. In Europe, the concentration of population is much higher, and it is important to take that point into consideration when you penetrate this North American market. In terms of GDP, the GDP generated is much higher. Well, there is the first economy in the world, which helps a lot. In terms of growth, it's more or less the same. And another very important point is regarding the languages. You have basically 3 main languages against 24 in Europe. And to go to the next slide, please. Yes. As mentioned earlier, so when you take the GDP generated by the US, Canada, and Mexico, overall it represents 98% of the North American market, with a big part done by the US market, which is the first economy in the world. In terms of population as well, these 3 countries represent almost 85% of the global population. And in terms of languages, I told you 3 main languages. Well, out of English, you have a lot of people, considerable part of people speaking Spanish, and the rest being French people and a little bit of local dialects. Let's start now with the presentation of the Canadian market. Next slide, please, and I will let Mary speak about the market she covers.
Thank you very much, Pierre, and thank you everyone for being present at this webinar this afternoon. My name is Mary, and I'm in charge of the consulting service in Altios in Canada. I'm based in Montreal, and this afternoon I will present to you rapidly the Canadian market. Next slide, please, Will. So Canada is a vast and wealthy country. This is the 2nd largest country in the world by total land area, so you have to take that into consideration when you want to develop your products and your sales in Canada. It's a really large country with more than 10 million square kilometers, 10 provinces and 3 territories. So when you would like to develop your sales and your products in Canada, you have to take Canada as a whole. It's a really large country, but it's relatively small considering the population base here. We are only 36 million inhabitants, so just for you to compare, it's 10% of the US population. It's half the UK population. So when you would like to develop the Canadian market, you have to know that it's a wide country, a huge country, but it's a small population inside, and it's a relatively different kind of population compared to east from west, compared to different provinces. There is many different cultures, different in terms of languages. We speak French, we speak English, and we speak small dialects. So when you want to develop your products and your equipment or other kind of services in Canada, you have to keep in mind that it's a really wide country, a really different country. Our country is very strong in terms of our economy and our GDP. Our GDP is equal to $2.1 trillion. We have the world's 10th largest economic power in the world, so the country is very strong. Regarding the economy, next slide please, Will. Will? Oh, thank you. So our official currency is the Canadian dollar. So at the moment, 1 Canadian dollar is equal to 1.65 UK pounds. So it's relatively good considering the fact that a few months ago our dollar was really low thanks to the crude oil crisis. But our country is in a constant growth since the 2008 recession. We have been in constant growth around 2%. So the economy is really strong, and we have a really strong financial services and a strong budgetary balance. So when you want to develop and when you want to establish a business in Canada, you will you will benefit from a very favorable environment and very rich economy, very talented people as well. You know, we have well-educated people, we have strong universities, we have very good engineers, etc. So you will benefit from all this environment. So this is very interesting for you to develop your presence or just to develop your sales here in Canada. We have a strong international partners because we are trading goods and services with mostly the United States of America, and then with Europe. By far, the United Kingdom is our first partner in the in Europe. So we are trading many different kinds of goods and services with your country. So it's very interesting for you to deal and to establish a business in Canada because you will benefit from similar activities, similar business practices here. Our economy is strong thanks to different services, different resources, natural resources, and many different key activity sectors. Next slide, please. Thank you. We have a strong economy, so thanks to a few dynamic sectors. We are very strong in aerospace. We have more than 700 companies based in Canada, with biggest company like Bombardier, Pratt & Whitney, CIE, etc. The R&D is intensive, and as I said just before, we have many talented people, talented engineers based in Canada. So if you want to establish a partner or a joint venture here in this sector, it will be very beneficial for you. We have very strong in ICT and digital media, with almost 37,000 companies based here in the video game development, in animation, in visual effects, and computer services. So this is a very strong environment for ICT and new technologies companies. We are strong in manufacturing sectors such as automotive and such as construction sector. Ontario, for example, is one of the most dynamic markets in North America. We usually say that Toronto is the city where you can see the most growth in North America. So it's really interesting. It's interesting as well because the country is huge and we have many needs in terms of infrastructures and in terms of buildings. So if you are a company based in this sector, it can be very interesting for you to start develop the Canadian market. We are strong in services, in business services, in financial services as well. We are strong in the food industry. The food industry is the second manufacturing sector in Canada. We are a world leader in oilseeds, in cereals, with an annual growth of 2.4% per year. Life and health science is a really big sector as well because we have a medical sector of $6.8 billion and we have a duty-free access to the world's biggest market, which is the US. And then natural resources and renewables. We are very strong in electricity, renewable energies. Canada is one of the biggest natural resources in the world, so we can benefit from all this, the mining industry, etc., which really strengthened our economy. Next slide, please, Will. So considering the fact that Canada is very strong, economically speaking, very strong in terms of political stability, we have many strengths. We have proximity and a unique relationship with the US. We are part of the NAFTA agreement, so the North American Free Trade Agreement signed by Canada, US, and Mexico, which will offer you a large market of 500 million consumers if you want to establish your business in Canada. At the moment, we know that the NAFTA will change, or we still don't know because of the new elected president in the US. But for now, I'm sure that Canada and the USA will keep a bilateral strong relationship. We have a robust and diverse economy thanks to our resources, thanks to our manufacturing and services industry. We have a solid and safe financial sectors, and we have lower corporate taxes compared to the US. So it can be interesting, more interesting for you to establish your business in Canada compared to establish your business in the US, because it will be cheaper and it will be interesting for you to have this North American market access through Canada. The challenges can be that we have a dispersed population, which could lead you to high logistic costs. As I said before, our country is very huge, very big, and the population is only about 36 million inhabitants, and it's very dispersed because you will have 60% of the population based in the east coast of Canada, in Ontario and Quebec. So when you would like to address the Canadian market as a whole, you can address only the east part of Canada. You will reach like more than half of the population. So you have to keep that in mind when you want to develop the Canadian market. So the market is relatively small, but we are good consumers. We have a good level of life, so you will get clients here in Canada. Some industry sectors are regulated by the government, so that can be more difficult to approach. So, for example, with the alcohol, because it's monopoly of states, with defense, and with acquisition and mergers. But you will have to deal with the government, so you have to keep that in mind. The opportunities can be that we are part of the NAFTA agreement, but we have also a good relationship with the UK companies and with the UK government. UK was part of the European Union, and we just signed an agreement between Europe and Canada. So for now, we still don't know, except with the Brexit, we still don't know how it's going to be, but I'm sure that we will keep a very strong relationship with UK company and the UK government. So next slide, please. Yes, we will keep very strong and very positive relationship with the UK because we share some very important historical links. We have a mutual migration, we have a shared system of government, we have a common language, the English, except in Quebec where we speak French, but we are part of the Commonwealth of Nations, so we are going to keep very strong relationship together. UK goods and services exports to Canada represent more than 5 billion UK pounds annually. We are trading oil and gas, aerospace product, manufacturing products, so we keep strong relationship. There is more than 700 UK companies that are operating in Canada, including biggest one like Cario, HSBC, but smallest one like GU, Tarrers, OPI, etc. So when you would like to develop the North American market, UK companies can start by the Canadian market, and they will benefit from a similar legal environments, similar business practices, familiar product, familiar environment, familiar people, so it will be easier for you to start by Canada if you want to develop the North American market. Next, please. To conclude for this quick presentation, I prepared a list of to do and to not do if you would like to consider the Canadian market. When you want to develop an export market, you have first to assess your product potential, and you have to adapt your products to the market. You have to think about the logistics, think about the foreign currency, and think about the different time zones. But this will be the case if you would like to develop in Canada, in the US, or in Mexico. Regarding Canada, you will have to build strong relationship with your partners and clients. It's very important for Canadian clients to rely on trust. So it will take you time and investment in to build this strong relationship. You will come to Canada. You will have to come to Canada several times a year in order to meet with your clients, meet with your partner. But once you will have this close relationship, you will keep it for long term, on a long-term basis. So it's very important for you to know that you have to place the customer at the core of your strategy, and you have to place your clients and your partners at the core of your business. Networking, partners, and referrals are very important for Canadian people. So really don't neglect something like the power of this in Canada. And the word of mouth is extremely effective. So if you are doing a great job in Canada, many people will know that, and you will develop your business very easily, very quickly. As I said, Canada is a very similar market, very close market compared to the UK market. So you will benefit from a favorable environment to develop your sales, but you don't have to think that Canada is really an easy market. You know, you have to be careful, and you have to know that there is a potential, but you have to work to reach this potential. And then you have to, you will have to consider Canada as only a gateway to the US market. If you would like to develop your sales in the entire North American market, you can use Canada as a gateway. But a success in Canada doesn't mean that you will have a success in the US. So really keep that in mind if you want to develop your product in Canada, and you will meet the success. I could speak a few longer regarding Canada because there is many things, many interesting things to say, but time is flying, and I will have to pass to Elise, who will speak about the Mexican market now.
Hi everyone. So my name is Elise Curo. I'm from Altios, Mexico. I've been working in different companies who want to develop themselves in Mexico in different sectors and in different steps of development, from market studies to creating a company in Mexico. So now we'll start with some more information regarding the Mexican market. Next slide, please. So there are three main cities in Mexico: Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Mexico City. Mexico City is the capital. It's more in the center of the country. Guadalajara is a little bit up north, and Monterrey is in the top right circle. Those three cities are the main market for many sectors, but it's also interesting that some regions are key points for developing in Mexico, especially the Bajío, which is the bottom circle, which is a region that has been booming over the 10 last years. The FDI that the region has received is way higher than the national average. National average is around 9% of increase of FDI, and in Bajío it's depending of the states, because Bajío is a mix of 5 states. The FDI increased from 20 to 50%. So really lately we saw a boom of this region, a boom in different industries: the aerospace industry, the automotive industry also, and in Jalisco, which is one of the 5 states, it's the telecommunication industry. Mexico is a large country, but what is really important to notice is the number of inhabitants. It's 127 million of inhabitants, with 20 million in Mexico City. So next slide, please. The economy, it's interesting to see that it has been stable for the last years. The inflation rate is around 3%, and the unemployment rate is pretty low. It's about 4%, and has been like this for several years. Regarding the investment, the foreign investment, it's interesting to see that it's focusing on Mexico City, Nuevo León, which is the state where is Monterrey. It's a region that have seen the attraction decrease the last 10 years because of the violence. It had a bad reputation, but lately it has changed. Many companies are now investing in Monterrey and in the region of Nuevo León, especially Kia. The Korean automotive industry opened a plant that brought a lot of suppliers. So it helped the region to regain a little bit of attractivity, and the violence has decreased a lot. Jalisco, as I mentioned before, is part of the Bajío region and is strong in telecommunication. So we can see that the automotive sector lately has been the main source of foreign investment. And as you know, Mexico is highly linked with the US, so more than 50% of the FDI is coming from the US. And next slide, please. Okay, so it's interesting to see that in Mexico we have many sectors of opportunity. I spoke about the automotive because it's the booming one right now. A lot of foreign companies are opening plants, and not only construction companies such as Volkswagen or BMW, but all the tier 1 suppliers, they are now have their plant in Mexico. What is missing now is the tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers. So there is a good opportunity to invest in this sector in Mexico. It's also the case in the aerospace industry, which is a little bit newer than the automotive one. We still need a lot of suppliers in this industry. The problem that the industry is meeting is that there are several manufacturing industry, but not specialists of the aerospace. So the industry is missing suppliers in Mexico, so it's a good area of opportunity. Regarding the energy sector, there was an important reform to open the market to foreign investment, because before in oil and gas, Pemex had the monopoly. So it's a big change in the market, and this allows foreign investment. So there is a good opportunity not only in oil and gas, but also in all the renewable energy. Regarding the IT sector, we have our own Mexican Silicon Valley in Guadalajara, which is part of the Jalisco state that I mentioned before, with 2,500 companies. This is also a very important sectors in this region, and there are plenty of opportunities there. Also, a key sector is the food and beverage industry. Mexico is an important producer, exporter, but also an important consumer, so there are a lot of importations, and especially with the development of the medium class, we saw a development of importation of gourmet products and products from Europe or the US. Mexico is consuming a lot of soft drinks, so it's an interesting market on that. The government made a tax of 10% or sugar tax for those soda drinks because it's health problems in Mexico. But still, it's an important part of the market. Next slide, please. So why Mexico? It's the main strength of Mexico is the geographical place of Mexico. It's close to the US and it's close to Central America. So not only because it's close to the country, but also with the trade agreements that we have trade agreements with 44 countries. Mexico is the country with more free trade agreements in the world, so it's really an open door to many markets. We've seen that in the last year we received a lot of FDI in different sectors. So Mexico is really changing from the image we had of maquiladoras. Now the sectors that are developing is the full chain of suppliers that is coming to Mexico. And for instance, in the automotive sector, some models are only made in Mexico. For instance, the Nissan Versa, the Ford Fiesta, they're only manufactured in Mexico. And it's also important to have in mind the number of consumers and the increasing of the medium class, which stands for 12% of the population. The big challenge for Mexico right now is the new American president. As of now, it's hard to have a vision on the effect, the real effect it's going to have on the economy. But actually, many Mexican people see that as an opportunity because, as I told you before, Mexico is depending a lot on the US, and the fact that we have so many free trade agreements and the fact that Trump is not willing to develop trade with Mexico, Mexico has the opportunity to take advantage of those free trade agreements and develop new trades with other countries, not to be so dependent on the US economy. An important thing in the Mexican market is that it's a price-oriented market, and we've seen that in different sectors. So it's really important to have in mind that the price of your product is going to be important for the consumers. The mentality in Mexico is not so much a long-run investment. Mexican people tends to focus on short-run results and are really oriented for the price, so it's important to have in mind when you want to start in the market. The opportunities, as I said, it's the it's the many free trade agreement that Mexico has, and that allows to develop a company easily from Mexico. Next slide, please. Sorry. There is a strong historic relationship between UK and Mexico. Actually, the UK was the first country to recognize the Mexican independence, and there were a strong trade relation, especially in mining. Nowadays, UK is still an important trading partner. It's the 6th largest trading partner among the members of the European Union. And we have 350 UK companies in Mexico, but 900 companies with British capitals. And now with the Brexit, we've saw that the Mexican government has prepared a draft of free trade agreement with the UK. So it's something that they are working on. It's also interesting to notice that in 2013, the UK Export Finance signed a cooperation agreement with Bancomext, which is a government bank, to offer export credits. So it's something important to have in mind. If you want to export in Mexico, you should check on this cooperation agreement. The top UK exports to Mexico are really diverse, from power generation machinery and equipment, road vehicles, medicinal and pharmaceutical products, beverages. So it shows that we have that there are several opportunities in different sectors in Mexico for UK companies. Next slide, please. So as Mary did for Canada, I'm going to give you a to-do list and not to-do list regarding Mexico. The first really important point is to be present and follow up. In Mexico, a business meeting doesn't start talking about business. It's important to talk about the family, the trip, if it's your first time in Mexico, what you think about Mexico. It's really important to develop a relationship deeper than just the business, because it's a key point in Mexico. Speaking Spanish is an obligation in a way that maybe the director of the company is going to speak English, but in the day-to-day operation, it's important that you have someone in your team that can speak Spanish for the importation, to manage all the relationship with the person. At the beginning, you can always have someone that speaks English, but for the day-to-day operation, it's important to have in mind that Spanish is better. It's important to be patient and flexible. If you work with Mexican people, you will hear ahorita, which means right now, but these words can mean in 2 minutes, in 2 hours, in 2 weeks. It's really a flexible word. So you have to be patient. If someone is canceling a meeting, that doesn't mean he's not interested. It's part of the business in Mexico. So don't hesitate to confirm the meeting several times and make sure that the relationship is deep to make the business more efficient. It's always also important to validate the information with various experts, or get help from someone knowing the market. At the beginning, for instance, for Altios, we would contact 3 different accountants and got 3 different versions of how the law can be interpreted. So it's important to have the right experts that tell you exactly how to follow the law, and work with someone that knows the country and someone you can get confident with it. You have to be ready to invest time and money, and you also have to anticipate highly on the permits and registration and norms that you have to fulfill, especially if you sell products for the human consumption or for the animal consumption. Some certificates may take more than a year, so it's really important to anticipate on the timing to get those documents. Keep yourself updated regarding reforms. Here, it's not that the law is changing every 2 weeks in Mexico, but sometimes what happened, for instance, with the fiscal reform of 2014 is that the reform was really heavy, so it took several years to get it implemented. So for instance, still in January this year, we had some change linked to this reform of 2015, so it's important, 2014, sorry, so it's important to be updated and be in touch with experts that know the different reforms. The two not to-do list, be too confident after one meeting. It's linked with the second advice that consider a yes as a yes. You may go to Mexico, have a great meeting, your counterpart will say, okay, I'm going to order you some products next week, I'm really interested, but if you don't follow up, if you don't come back, get in touch with them, maybe the sale won't go through. So it's important to go deeper in the relation. And when you get a yes, you have to fully understand what this yes means. When are you going to sell to me? How are you going to do it? You really have to go deeper and not just get satisfied because you got a yes. It's important not to consider that your company name may not be available. It happened to many companies that there is a registration and the name is not available, so it's important to have in mind to prepare other options. Consider the timing given back to the authority as exact. It depends on the authorities, but it's important to have in mind that if the authority told you in 2 weeks you'll have this document, maybe you have to consider 3 or 4 weeks just to have a margin and make sure you don't get affected by this delay afterwards. As I told you, it's dependent on the authority. For instance, the Institute of National Migration is getting better and better. Then regarding the custom, it's important to be exact on the documents you have. And it's important also to register your product under your distributor's name. I mean, not to do it under your distributor's name, but to work with an importer to get independence from your distributor if anything goes wrong. Next slide, please. So now I'll give the word to Dalton Marketplace, who will speak about the USA.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Dalton Makepeace and I'm a project manager here at Altios International. Over the past few years, I've been working with a majority of our UK clients in their international business development into the United States. To kind of give you a little background, I've worked on about 45 plus market studies, partnership searches for UK companies looking to import, invest into the United States. And the majority of these companies have been maybe between 1 and 10 employees or even above 10,000 employees. So I've worked in a large breadth of sizes of companies as well as many different sectors. So over the past maybe 3 years, I've worked in advanced manufacturing, food, beverage, fashion, consumer goods, energy, and utilities. So these seem to be the key sectors that we have coming to the United States, or the inquiries that I've had. So if we can go on to the next slide. Thank you very much. So to give you a little background on the U.S., it is the world's 4th largest country by area. And it is divided into, I would say, 4 key regions. These are the Western U.S., Eastern U.S., the U.S. Industrial Heartland, as well as the U.S. Services Heartland. For the Western U.S., we've seen most inquiries from UK companies coming from wanting to go to Seattle, Portland, Los Angeles, San Francisco. For the Southeast, we see a majority of UK companies wanting to do business in Houston, Miami, Orlando, Atlanta. For the Industrial Heartland, say a lot of our companies that do advanced manufacturing or construction have inquiries about doing business in Detroit and Chicago. And for our clients who have are in the service sector, have looked into doing business in New York City, Boston, Washington, D.C., as well as Philadelphia. The United States has a population of around 324 million, and our GDP is the world's largest at 18.6 trillion, with a GDP growth of 2.4 to 2.6% right now. Next slide, please. All right, to kind of give you an overview of our economic power in the U.S. The U.S. is by far the largest economy in the world and is home to 16 of the world's 30th largest city economies. The U.S. economy has outperformed most other developed countries in recent years in terms of growth and technology. Right now, our unemployment rate is pretty low at a 4.8% and is projected to decrease even from that. And as well as I mentioned, our GDP growth is at a stable 2.4%. The U.S. holds the leading position in a number of high technology and future-oriented industries. And we've seen a lot of UK companies that are in high-tech advanced manufacturing sectors that are really looking to bring their product and services to the U.S. because in some instances they just don't exist here yet. So they're looking to get an uphold on the opportunity and see how they can tap into a market that maybe it doesn't even exist in the U.S. because it hasn't, the technology hasn't been really introduced. I've worked on a number of projects for, especially in energy in the past, maybe a year or so, and for alternative fuels and wind power, where UK companies are introducing a product or service where when I'm speaking with a US potential partner, they're excited to hear about it because they've not had an inquiry from a US company yet for this product or service. So also we will see for within the economics of it that a lot of the economic growth has come from the southern too, where other regions in the United States have been slow to grow, and this is in particular the Midwest. Also to give you a little background, the pound decreasing in value compared to the US dollar and the US dollar increasing in value has made UK goods a little bit more favorable in terms of trade, with the $1 equaling about 80 pence and £1 equaling about $1.45. It's made some UK products very competitive in the US market, or at least more competitive than they would have been 2 or 3 years ago. So next slide, please. Will, next slide. Thank you very much. So once again, to kind of give you the size of the United States in terms of GDP, we see that a majority of our states are just as large as many countries around the world. And one thing that's really key to remember is that the U.S. is a federal system. Now, by that, I mean each state has their own certifications, regulations, and standards that UK companies may need to comply to. In other words, if you're a UK company exporting an electronic device to the state of Florida, it may have different regulations and certifications if you want to bring that product to the state of California. So that is very key to understand in speaking with and partnering with a customs broker or customs lawyer to understand what each state requires legally in order for you to bring your product and sometimes services to that particular state. Next slide, please. We see that our relationship with the UK is very strong. The USA is the UK's largest export partner, and for us, for you guys, it's the second largest import partner. The USA accounted for about 20% of UK's exports and about 11.1% of UK's imports. More than about 1 million, and the last time I saw a closer figure was about 1.2 million US workers in the United States are employed by US affiliates of UK companies. So that just goes to show how important it is to keep trade and investment from the UK to the US and the US to the UK. We see the top sectors for investment from the UK to the US as being ICT, financial services, communications, industrial goods, consumer goods, health and life science products, as well as in the most recent projects I've worked on have been in fashion as well. So I've seen a lot of fashion goods and designers looking to understand and how to bring their product to the US. And one of the main reasons is because the product can now be a bit more affordable and competitive to domestic products. There's also talks of a U.S.-UK deal under the Trump administration, and this is a question that I get asked on almost every call that I have with a UK company that's trying to understand where their potential lies in the U.S. And it's very difficult right now to say what the Trump administration is going to be doing with trade and investment from foreign countries. So that'll be something that we'll have to keep an eye out and discuss and look further on during his tenure as president. Next slide, please. So the top sectors that I see UK companies questioning my team about here in New York is in the aerospace, energy, ICT, automotive, food, beverage, health and life science, and construction industries. The aerospace industry in the United States is very large, and there's a lot of opportunity with Tier 2 and Tier 3 suppliers for companies such as Boeing, Pratt & Whitney, as well as even some European companies which are now present in the U.S. So this would be Airbus is now manufacturing some planes here. So there's a lot of opportunity that we've seen and had in the past for UK companies that have been very successful in building partnerships with these larger Tier 1 suppliers and then ultimately supplying to the OEM. In energy, over the past 2 years, I've seen a number of UK companies, especially in wind and alternative energies, especially smart grid technologies, looking to make their investment here in the US. And we've seen a lot of very good success in that. In particular, I was working with a robotics company which was looking to work with in the nuclear sector here. And because their technology did not exist in the US yet, there was a lot of interest from even the US government in terms of talking and exploring further about how they could work with one another. ICT has been a very strong industry as well. Over the past 2 years, I've seen a number of UK companies that have very innovative platforms that they come to the US and work in either San Francisco or New York with some of their intention to go global from the US. In other words, they're bringing their product or their technology to the US and then re-exporting it out of the US to, say, other parts of Europe or Asia, South America, and then our other partners, Canada and Mexico. The automotive industry is very similar to the aerospace in terms of opportunity and working with the Tier 2 and acting as a Tier 2 and Tier 3 supplier to the OEMs or Tier 1 suppliers. Over 1 million employees are directly involved in the automotive industry, and many more are indirectly involved. Food and beverage is another industry that I've seen with UK companies looking to bring their food or beverage product to the US. And I've seen a lot of great potential in that. Over the past 2 years, I believe I've worked on about 4 or 5 projects with UK, rather large UK food manufacturers or beverage manufacturers. There's been a lot of interest, and it's pretty straightforward in how we can handle these projects and working with the importers, distributors, the retailers, and there's a lot of great trade shows out there where DIT and companies like Altios can help UK companies with their expansion into the food and beverage industry here. The life and health science industry has grown increasingly over the last 2 years from what I've seen, and we've seen a number of inquiries from UK companies that are looking to tap into the US market and have seen very good results. We've seen one thing that is a bit difficult is for UK companies to comply with the FDA standards and regulations. So it's absolutely imperative that you work alongside the FDA or an FDA consultant to make sure that your product is ready to export to the US, or else there's not going to be much demand for it. People aren't going to be very open to learning more about your product unless you can already say, yes, my product is FDA compliant, or yes, I'm already in talks to get my product FDA compliant. Another industry that I've seen a lot of interest in is construction, especially with the infrastructure here in the United States that does need to be revamped. I've seen a lot of inquiries from UK companies that are looking to see how they can work with some of the larger construction companies, architecture firms, and provide product or service and bring these innovative UK technologies to the US. And to be perfectly honest, we've had very successful projects, and there's been a lot of interest from US partners. So if we could move on to the next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the market expectations that I've seen over the past few years and kind of the advantages and success factors, as well as the challenges that I've had and seen UK companies face trying to enter the US. So by far and large, I would say that UK companies and European products overall are highly regarded in the US for their quality, and there's a lot of opportunity for these companies to either export product to the US, have a merger or acquisition, either through brownfield or brownfield investment, to possibly setting up their own company and really getting started. Another thing that I think is absolutely necessary is for UK companies to follow and understand the trends and expectations of the US market and your target client. It is imperative, and I can't stress it enough for UK companies or any company around the world trying to do business in the United States, is you absolutely have to do your homework. You have to be very humble about what your gains will be, and you have to really push for succeeding in the market. Understanding who your competitors are, understanding where your product may sit in a particular store is something that you need to know, and the prices of your competition is something you need to know before you really set your sights on the U.S. market. Another thing that's very key is to really commit to the U.S. market. And as I said, you have to be humble about your first results. Patience is very important. It takes time to really develop the right connections and networks with the contacts, companies, clients, your agents, your distributors. Building these relationships is something that is tantamount to all else, I feel, at times, because they're the ones that are going to be driving your success in the United States. And really committing and building a relationship, making a couple of trips out to the U.S. each year is going to be key to meet with these individuals. Also, the ability to diversify your business regionally is going to be extremely important, and you're going to have to pick a region to really grow in and focus on that one particular market. Going through some of the challenges, these are very general, but the market is very large. You have to divide and conquer. You have to use intermediaries and agents, importers to start off in the United States, and then if it's successful, maybe look at setting up your own subsidiary. Taxation is extremely complicated and varies state by state, as you very well know. There's no VAT. Each state has their own taxes, sales tax, which you'll have to comply to. And another challenge that I've seen with UK companies is the expensive workforce and high turnover of employees. If we could go to the next slide. And I'll be very quick with this since I think we're running out of time, but all in all, it's very important to pick the proper implementation method, either through using an importer distributor. The benefits of working with an importer distributor means that they become the legal importer of the goods. They can store the goods if they're the distributor. If they're the agent or representative, then they'll just be selling the goods, and you'll have to figure out how to warehouse it and store your product here in the U.S. Setting up, the next step would possibly to become a non-resident importer, which reduces your management costs. It's a quick solution to be put in place, but you'll need to own your own stock in the United States on its behalf, which can cause tax risks. Also, customs tariffs are calculated on the amount of the transaction, and if you want to control your transfer prices, setting up a subsidiary may be the best route for you, and this allows direct import in allowing you to manipulate your transfer price to lower your customs tariffs, and as well as to own your own stock in the U.S. However, the negative of that is that it can be quite costly for the management of that subsidiary. So if we can move on to the next slide, I believe I'll just talk about the do's and don'ts very quickly. The do's is to build your brand here, to have your brand recognized, something that resonates with the American consumer that you can really grow on. You need to benchmark against your existing competition. What is your unique selling proposition? What makes your product better than what we have in the US? And if you can answer these questions and say, I have a product that's better than the competitors, we have a lower price, we have something that's just a little bit edgier, this is something that's going to resonate with your US partner. And this is what I've seen in the interest from these projects that I've worked on over the past 2 years. And make sure that you are able to identify and do your due diligence on your right partner and be very patient about it. Some of the to-dos, some of the not to-dos would be, don't just expect the U.S. to be easy. It's very difficult, and I've seen a lot of companies have very high expectations for the U.S., but they must understand that you have to do your homework, understand the market, before you go out and try to find your partner here. And another thing is, don't expect the U.S. to be all-encompassing. Definitely understand that the U.S. is, once again, a federal system. In each state, you have to conform to the legislation, the regulations, standards, in order to be successful. So with that, I'll pass it on to Pierre, who will kind of wrap this up, and we'll move on from the questions from there.
Thank you, Dalton. Yeah, to make a brief conclusion around the way we can support your expansion into the North American market, we can first help you select which is the most relevant market for your expansion between the 3 markets we just presented. Then we can help you get into this market, seeing the potential, defining the right route to market, for example. Then grow your business through part-time resources and local representation. We can as well host your staff, and once you are completely able to set up a local presence, and once it is relevant for you to have a local office, we can help you set up your substrate. If you have any question, I believe it's going to be the Q&A section, but otherwise you can contact us. You have my name on the bottom left and my phone number. I will be pleased to answer all questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre, and thank you, Dalton, Elise, Marie, for some really useful presentations and absolutely loads of information there. We have overrun a little bit, so I'm going to open the floor to a couple of questions, but I think we will probably use the forum for a lot of the more specific questions afterwards. So just to get the first question out there, it's from Denise, and she asks about she's been trying to find distributors and appropriate buyers within the US, but it's finding it really hard to engage with buyers. Dalton, do buyers ever travel to the UK, and what tips would you give for UK companies trying to engage with US buyers? Dalton?
Sorry, my mic was off. I do know of I have heard of in the past of a couple UK organizations that have brought buyers from the US to the UK to meet with a delegation of UK companies. But I would say the easiest way to get in touch with a buyer is through, say, LinkedIn or doing your due diligence. And for example, if you're a producer of a food and beverage product, and you want to bring your product to the U.S. Whole Foods, and you have a very strong case study, something that you can really present to a buyer here, and you can prove that you have all the logistics, just give them a call or make a couple rounds of outreach to different buyers within the organization that you're trying to reach out to. And I've seen buyers be more than helpful in really trying to see how they could work with you. So I think the best way to reach out to a buyer in the U.S. is just to give them a call or send them an email.
Thank you, Dalton. And a question in from Brian, and he's asking about exclusivity and kind of when is it reasonable to offer exclusivity when dealing with retailers or dealers in USA and Canada? Marie, do you want to speak to that first for Canada?
Yes, regarding Canada, so if you are looking for exclusivity, you have to deal directly with your distributor or with your partner. You can set up an exclusive contract with your partner or a distributor. It can be a problem. What in which industry? What was the company in retailing industry?
It was the email says Moreland Rugs, so I'm going to guess it's in kind of home and yeah, kind of rugs as an industry.
Yeah, so there is no problem to set up an exclusive partnership with your partner. You just have to be careful on the geographical position of your partner. You can have an exclusivity, sorry, for one province or for the Canada as a whole. So you just have to be careful regarding that and just consult a specialized or an expert of the Canadian market just to confirm that the contract is well established regarding the Canada.
That's about for the USA.
Yeah, so I've seen a number of different projects and industries where the partner here in the United States would ask for exclusivity. And I would say a majority of the time it's regional exclusivity. I wouldn't say that I've worked on that many projects where they want exclusivity for the entire U.S. market. It's almost too big to try to handle something like that. And you said that what industry was this product in, Will?
There's rugs, so homeware and...
Okay, so in terms of that, I haven't seen all too many exclusivity deals done by in the retail sector for home goods, but I have seen sometimes that if you're trying to work with one department store, other department stores won't want to work with you because you already have that deal with in a different department store, for example. So I think it's hard to say without knowing the exact specificities of the product and what it would be, but I would say by far and large exclusivity has been very regional in my case for the US market.
Thank you both. And I think I'm going to do just one more question as we're running out of time, and it's for Marie. Sorry, it's for Elise on Mexico, and it's about to what extent is Mexico a gateway market potentially for South America, or should Mexico be treated as its own entity? And that's from Ian. Elise?
There are two things. Geographically, it's well situated to be like some companies, they have their base of America, they have an office in Mexico to manage the US and South America and Central America. But also the trade agreements I was mentioning, they're really helping the trade between the different countries. So it's easier to be based in Mexico and to develop in other countries because of these free trade agreements.
Thank you. And as I said, we've started over one, so on that note, I think we're going to wrap up. Thank you once again to Pierre, Elise, Marie and Dalton. Some really good answers there, and I hope you found the presentation useful. It's very in-depth and lots of information there.
Thank you.
I'd like to remind you that we will be posting these questions onto the forum in the aftermath to this webinar, so please keep your eyes peeled for these and let us know if you'd like to withdraw your question from this process. We've got quite a few to do in that way, so we'll try and get those done before the end of the week. That's it for the Beyond the EU webinar series. If you missed any of our sessions on Latin America, Russia, or the Commonwealth webinar we did at the end of last year, you can find recordings of them at opentechexport.com/webinars. In March, we'll be doing another 2 webinars, one on what you need to know about if you are exporting as a service company, And the second will be with SDL Managed Translation, covering what you need to do to ensure your offering is understood online when selling it overseas. That's all from us for now. Please take our survey as you exit to let us know what you thought of the webinar and to give us any suggestions for improvements for future topics. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar and the Beyond the EU series as a whole. That's goodbye for now.